Yeah. All right. Well, it's recording. We're live.
We're back on.
Let me just move this. Let me move my chair up. Okay. Obviously, all this is going to be edited. My chair down. Okay. There we go.
I don't think you should edit that part. You should make it natural. You know what I mean? So,
natural.
what's with this idea of the podcast? Like, where did this come from, and where do you see that going forward in the channel?
I think the idea of the podcast is to have actual people, on the podcast, because up until now, all my podcasts have been kind of like a one-person show. I get an email, which is good. I like responding to emails, but it's better to have a real person. And so thank you for being here on this podcast, Rafael. So for those of you that don't know, Rafael is a mechanical engineer. He is Brazilian, and he is a power lifter, so which is pretty cool. So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself? Why did you get into engineering? Tell everyone here, because I think that's what everyone really wants to know.
Well, before I get to that question, I just want to say I'm very honored to be here. I love your channel. I love you too as a person. So I'm actually an OG apprentice. I'll tell you guys more about it later. I'll go more in depth on that. But yeah, so I'm an engineer, as Professor said, and I've been an engineer now officially for 2 years, I guess. But I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. This is what I do for work, and I'm actually from Brazil, which is interesting for the audience that's from different parts of the globe, right? I'm sure it's interesting for those there. But yeah, and recently into powerlifting, so it's been fun. But I'm just excited to be here. And let's take it away. What are some of the things that in your podcast that you just want to have your guests touch on? What are some of the things that you think your audience would love to know a lot about?
I think the audience would really like to know, why did you become an engineer? Because there's lots of things you can study in college, right? You can study all kinds of different stuff. You can study math, right? This is a math channel, so math is a big thing that people here who are watching, study computer science. And in your case, you decided to become a mechanical engineer. So why did you choose that?
So why did I choose mechanical engineering? So I guess long story short, right? Because everyone has their reasons, but my reason has always been to help as many people as possible, right? So I'm from Brazil. Over there, we have very limited resources for so many different things, and I just saw this field as an opportunity to solve problems and solve a lot of different types of problems, right? And it just came naturally to me because I'm very, very good at math, as someone here can attest, I guess. But naturally good at physics as well. I found that out when I was in middle school, and I just put the two and two together, and I was like, why not? Let me give this mechanical engineering field a try. And I just ended up falling in love in the process as I took more and more classes. I got into research positions. I was a teaching assistant at some point. I have some publications in engineering journals. I won a couple of awards for my papers. And now I'm away from school, in the field, actually getting experience and going towards a professional engineering license. But the bottom line is, for me, what made me decide to be an engineer was to be able to solve problems, solve very complicated problems, and most importantly, to just be able to help as many people as possible, right? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that think of the engineering field as an easy way to make money. What do you think, Professor? What do you hear? What did you hear from some of your students, I guess? I think that's another really good point. I'm sure you've had a lot of engineering students in the years. What did they say? Like, oh, why did they do engineering?
Yeah, that's a good point, because in a typical calculus class, most of the students are engineering students. Like the majority of the class is engineering, and most of them want to go into it because they want to make more money. That's typically the case. And then there's a lot of them that want to go into it because they want to do something. They want to create something. They want to like change the world.
Right.
And I think engineering is one of the hardest degrees. I honestly think that it's harder than a math degree, and I think it's harder than a physics degree because it's both.
Right.
And let's just take a step back for a moment, because you said you're from Brazil, and I know that here on our channel, on this channel, there's a lot of people from all over the world, right? I mean,
Right.
all over the world. So
Right.
when did you come to the U.S.?
So I actually came to the U.S. when I was about 18 years old. I had already graduated high school, quote, quote, because we don't call it high school there. But after I graduated high school, I actually didn't do the traditional route. I ended up getting some work experience, and I think that was a wonderful thing for me. For those of you that are stressed about, making a choice for university and things like that, I took a year off, I worked, and then I made a calm decision of what I wanted to do. But we can touch more on that later. As far as being from Brazil and why it is that I chose to pursue an engineering degree here, for starters, the opportunities are completely different, right? The resources, most importantly, are completely different. And I don't say that when I say opportunities, don't get me wrong as far as the idea of the American dream or anything like that. I'm certainly not, I wasn't certainly interested in just that. I was interested in being able to do more than the typical engineering graduate in Brazil, right? Which is very limited. The bottom line is for me, what I gained from being able to get a degree from here was just the exposure to so many different kinds of resources. Like I mentioned before, I published a couple papers. I did research with top of the line professors, and I think this is really great for those of you that are out there and are about to graduate, or maybe want a master's, maybe want to pursue a PhD. Um, International students or people from different countries are extremely strong here, so I came in thinking, oh man, I'm gonna struggle. In fact, I did struggle at the beginning, and I remember, I think I told you this story. My first class ever, the math professor was like, oh, so tangent is the slope. And I was like, what is slope? What does that mean? What is slope?
You didn't know what it
And
was?
no, I did not know what slope meant, man. This is
Game
how
over.
hard it was for me. So what I did was, which I
Ah.
think he was at the time was very smart, right? Um, I had a friend. I met this guy. He was sitting next to me in class, and I told him, "Hey, I struggle with the words," and he was like, "Oh man, I actually struggle with the math," and I was like, "Perfect, perfect. I will teach you the math. You teach me the words." And then every week we'd got together, we'd order some pizza, and we'd study the night away. And this is how I actually gained a lot of vocab, which is what I was missing. I was missing a lot of the vocab. And once I gained that fluency, it was very easy. But I kept studying with him because he was just a cool dude, you know. Um, but yeah, so back to the original point. I strongly encourage those of you that want to pursue a higher level degree in the U.S. or any country, by all means, right? Because the opportunities that you get, they're far greater than, just staying in your own country. As much as my country has tremendously good universities and tremendously good professionals, um, I feel like I've gained a lot more than just the degree, right? So that is my point. But was there anything that, you think your audience would, you know, find interesting for me to talk more about? But one thing that I know you were touching on that I think it's important, before you get to more, if you want to say more, but you were saying that a lot of your calculus students were in engineering to make money, and I hate to say it, there's not a lot of money in engineering, folks. I'm so sorry. If you want to be rich, choose something else. Choose something else.
It's not that high paying, you think? You don't think it's
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can make a good amount of money, but you're not gonna get out of school making boatloads of money like everyone thinks they're gonna make, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not how it works. It takes 10 years, and in 10 years you can make money in any field, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thanks, man. Because a lot of times people ask questions, in the comments. They're from other countries and they want to come to the U.S. and they want to study. And I always think about, my experience in graduate school. I mean, there was a guy from Italy. I mean, like a person from Italy. He spoke Italian. He was so cool. He had like long black hair and like he would Skype with his girlfriend in Italian. And there was a guy from Greece. I mean, just really, really international. People from all over the world. So it's good to hear a story from someone who's not a math major, right? Someone who's an engineer who actually came here and studied and got a degree, and now you have a job and stuff. So that's really, really cool.
and just to touch on a little bit of that, because I think it gives great comfort to those that are indeed interested in pursuing a higher degree in the United States. Um, I had friends from all over the world, right? One of my roommates, really great friend still, he's from Oman, right? And just to think of that, right? I would have probably never met someone from Oman if it wasn't for me, studying in the US, right? And to name one, right? I have friends from Aruba, Venezuela, you name it, Colombia, it's just a compilation of different backgrounds that blew my mind, and just broadened my view, my worldview as well. So a lot of the graduate students in my program, they were from India. I also had Chinese TAs. I had, you know, a vast majority of friends and acquaintances in the program that were from all over the world, and I think that's just incredible.
What do you think just to switch gears a little bit, what do you think what are some of the challenges you faced as an engineering student, and how did you overcome them? Because I know there's a lot of people on this channel who want to be engineers, and I know engineering is a really hard major because you have these projects and you have these classes, and the professors sometimes like I don't want to talk bad about anyone, but like I've heard stories, right? Like there's some really hard tests and really hard assignments and just really high expectations.
Yeah, so this is a really good question. I think anyone that's currently in an engineering program is going to relate to what I'm about to say is unfortunately your social life becomes studying with your engineering friends, your peers, right? So a lot of my social life got cut immensely, probably like 80, 90% of my social life was gone, right? But it's just you're laughing, but it's
No,
true.
no, because it's the same here, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, it's a choice, right? There were certainly average students that were able to juggle a bunch of different things at once. But I refuse to be average. I refuse to just go to class and do a few assignments and go home. I wanted to extract as much as possible out of the program, which I think is for those that, choose to pursue something outside of their comfort zone. You might as well just go all in, right? But as far as the major struggles for me, we're definitely juggling so many different subjects that are completely different than each other, right? So one moment you're studying fluid mechanics, the other moment you're studying statics, dynamics, which are completely different classes. And I'm just saying in the beginning, right? Towards the end, you have vibrations, you have controls, you have heat transfer, right? Which are very difficult classes, and just having to switch your brain instantly the same day to a different subject, I think is one of the hardest things, right? As much as the background and the way to tackle the problems is very similar throughout the whole set of disciplines, you do have the challenge of juggling a lot of hard subjects at once, right?
hmm
And I don't know how it was for you and your math degree and graduate degree, um, but what I noticed from my friends is that a lot of them neglected basic habits, right? Which is something that I do not recommend for anyone that's out there. And when I say about that, and I'm not sure if you can relate to this, is so many people would just forget to eat, you know? They would get, 4 hours of sleep every day and then get sick every week. Um, and I don't think that's a really good thing, right? So
yeah, yeah. It's
definitely something to watch out for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that the whole thing with the different subjects, I tried to, I kind of tried to embrace it, you know, because I would be taking like a combinatorics class, and then I would take a partial differential equations class, and then a linear algebra class, and then I'd have a fourth class that was kind of like a fluff class because I was on financial aid, and back then when I was in school, as long as you were full time, you can get full financial aid, and you were allowed to take classes outside your major. So I took a couple classes outside my major, which made it easier for me. But they changed the rules in the U.S. now, and I think that I'm pretty sure, like in order to get full financial aid, all the classes you have to take have to be in your major. So if you're a math major or if you're an engineering major, that means to be full time, you might have to take 4 super hard classes, and
Hmm.
that is killer. I mean, the most I could ever do was 3. And you talked about social life, game over. You know, when I took advanced calculus, that was it. That was it. It was over. You know, goodbye girlfriend, goodbye friends. It
Yeah.
was all over. I mean, and not by choice. Just you know, you have to make sacrifices and you make decisions, and you live with them,
Yeah.
right? You do the best you can. So
Yes.
yeah.
And I think, I don't know how it is for math majors, but unfortunately for engineering majors, if you want to work in the field and you want to pursue something, um, I'll just give a random example, right? Let's say you want to work for NASA. You want to seek an internship as early as possible in the process, right? And when you seek an internship, a lot of times you're juggling the internship and classes, right? Because otherwise you're going to be behind in the program, right? So for a lot of us, it was very hard to juggle getting experience, taking hard classes, and also getting enough sleep, So I remember I chose somewhat of a mixed route. I did both internship and I also got research experience. This is something I wanted to do just because I wanted to get exposure to both before I made a decision on what I wanted to do right after graduating, right? But I had a lot of friends, and I'm sure you had students too, that um, they would work part time as an internship and take classes at the same time. For me, I chose to take a whole summer off. And here in the US, guys, for those of you that are not familiar with the system, in the summer, sometimes you can take classes. It's good to take classes because then you get ahead and you don't get as overwhelmed, I should say, right? But I took a whole summer off just to dedicate to an internship. And that put me behind. So towards the end of the program, I was taking 5 engineering classes every semester.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So talk about your struggles to take 4 at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine 5, right? Which is, not, I mean, it's common, but not recommended, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a struggle. I had a friend who he was one of my internet friends. We used to chat online. His name is Jeff. That was his real name. And I actually met him in real life. Yeah. His
you
internet
and your internet friends, but this is besides the point.
his internet name was Akusarujin. And
Okay.
yeah, he was really cool and I met him and he was a computer science major
Hmm.
and he was getting C's because he got a job doing like some computer science stuff, and I was like, man, you can't be doing this, right? Like you got to get good grades, like, you know, what's going on? Like focus on getting A's, it's all that matters. And so he got C's, he got his degree, and I'm not saying C's are good, but this is just a story because
Right,
it's kind of,
right.
he got his degree and right out of college he was making like 75 or 80. And then last I heard, it's been like a decade, okay, he got a job in Colorado making like 120, and this is like 10 years ago.
Right.
120K, right?
Which
So
is a lot of money for 10 years ago. Imagine now, there would be probably like, I don't know, 150, 160, probably, if
hmm
not more.
yeah, so he really focused on getting the job skills and just barely got by the grades, and he ended up doing okay. Now I don't know if that's going to work for everyone, but like it's just an interesting story of someone who did mediocre in college. Like he didn't do great because he was
Right.
working so much, and he had to
Yes.
work. He was in a situation where I'm sure you know in the U.S., like if your parents make too much money, you can't get financial aid, and too much money is really not a lot of money. Like you have to be really really poor,
Yes. Yes.
super poor. And his parents weren't rich, but like they couldn't really help him with college, so he kind of had to work and live with roommates, and it was a real struggle for him. But like, yeah, it worked out. I'm really happy it did. So
So just to expand a little bit more on what you just said, right? There are a lot of students that are average by choice, but a lot of them are average, as far as getting C's because they just can't, right? It's just a condition. However, I found that the people that I encountered that got C's because of a condition and not because of choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
They typically got out of school with very good jobs, very high paying jobs, and a lot of times making more than those that were getting A's
Mm-hmm.
because they just had a different kind of focus, right? So as
Mm-hmm.
long as you have a focus, whether that's getting a lot of internship experience, whether that is, just getting a lot of research experience, you should be good, right? The problem is when you don't have any focus.
So I was using my keyboard to switch the scenes because this is like a new podcast, and I accidentally stopped the recording. So I'm recording this now. I'll probably just edit this out. I know it's so bad, so bad.
No, it's not bad. It's fine. It's
It's good.
fine.
It's because I stood up because I have a wire going to my phone, and then like it was covering your face, and I was staring at the wire the whole time you were talking. And like I started to see two of you. Like you started to split. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose my vision if I keep looking at him. But I want to look at him because like he's talking, and what he's saying is interesting. It's like
Yeah.
I gotta get a
No,
better setup, man. This is
no,
good though.
it's all good. I think the first podcast is to figure out the kinks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
work through them. And this is why you haven't invited Bill Gates as the first guy, you know? Hey, but Bill Gates is coming, guys. Bill Gates is coming. All right, I know he's coming. You know?
I gotta be like who's that guy? Lex Friedman.
Yeah.
He just had Mark Zuckerberg. I was just watching that earlier before this. I was like, oh, I got to get an idea for a podcast. He uses the same microphone I use, right? So I'm almost
See,
there.
it's all a sign. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
almost there.
Does he have all the fancy books in the background too, or no?
No,
Then you're already higher than him.
no. But he wears like a suit type thing. I'm wearing
Oh,
like
okay,
this is like a
yeah.
cheap. This is like a really like cheap T-shirt from Amazon.
Hey.
I gotta up my game.
Nah. Be yourself. Be yourself. Doesn't matter.
So let's talk about like working as an engineer. And I know that like when we talk about this, you want to be careful because it's on the internet and you're employed, so you probably don't want to mention where you work and stuff.
Yeah.
So what are some good things about actually being a mechanical engineer? What are some things that you can tell our audience that they might appreciate?
So for me, I can talk about a set of experiences. So let me just go back to my internship experience, and I won't say the company or any of that. But when I did my internship, I realized that I knew very little compared to what I thought I knew, right? A very minimum amount, actually. And it was enough for me to think critically and figure it out on my own, but not enough to where I knew the answer right away, right? So if someone enjoys solving problems on a constant and regular basis, and it's something that gets them going, excites them, engineering is for you, right? So that's when I realized engineering is for me. I enjoy the constant challenge of solving real world problems, right? I was solving real world problems as an intern, right? Now, when I got my first engineering job, which is not my current job, it was very exciting because I got to see the product that I designed come to life right in front of my eyes, right? So think about that perspective, guys. I mean, if you're striving to be an engineer, especially a mechanical engineer, you will get to see your work being implemented, right? And a lot of people might think, oh, wow, this is what I'm really excited about, and I would love to be and do that. But there are challenges that come with it, right? Because when your design is being implemented, they're calling you for questions. They're calling you for answers. They're calling you with their struggles, right? So I remember being in the shop floor constantly during my first job and just helping production with challenges, right? So how do I fit this part? How do I, get this assembled together? Um, you know, how should I prioritize the order of the operations, because it was a very custom product, right? That throughout production faced a lot of struggles until it was ready. So for those of you that love solving problems, engineering is a really good field. But I must say it can be stressful sometimes. But it shouldn't be stressful all the time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this kind of goes back to what we were discussing way back, is the engineering classes are hard, and I believe they're hard for a reason, right? They're hard for a reason because you need to be able to think when you're stressed, right? And whether that is creating strategies to step out for a second, go out for a cup of coffee, drink some water, stand up from your desk. Um, if it gets to a point where it's too overwhelming, then you take a break and you're like, okay, I'm going to take an early lunch. You know, I'm going to take an early lunch because then I clear my head and I'll have some time to actually think through this, right? And I learned that actually in my internship. I remember struggling a lot with a problem, and one of the senior engineers there was like, "Hey, have you eaten anything today, like this afternoon?" And I was like, "No, I'm actually kind of hungry." And he was like, "No, this is not how we're gonna do this." He opened his drawer. He gave me one of his snacks that he constantly snack on, and he was like, "Here it is. Go in the kitchen, make yourself this snack, and then come back, and then we'll discuss your issue." Boom. And that's when I learned that you know taking a break was actually encouraged in this field, because it allows your ideas to flow, and your emotions to settle a little bit more. You can think clearly, and then you can actually tackle the problem, right?
Basically, you're talking about being mindful of your feelings and how you're performing, and building some, mental toughness.
Yes.
Yes.
Mental toughness is perhaps one of the biggest challenges as an engineer, right? Which is why you probably see a lot of engineers, they want to go up in the ladder as quickly as possible,
Mm-hmm.
because that constant everyday beating of solving problems, it wears you out a lot. So they would rather learn as much as possible about everything and oversee the processes versus do all the grunt work. And not saying that, if you choose a route where you're constantly doing all the hard work all the time is a bad thing, but it's typically, something that wears you out a lot throughout years. So you want to seek an opportunity that in my opinion, you can go up and slowly be able to stress at the right times. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, that kind of I don't know the word, kind of coincides. I'm not sure if that's the right word. That kind of agrees with what I've heard from other engineers. That it's pretty rigorous. Like, you really have to be like on your game. But for the most
yes.
part, you would say it's a very enjoyable profession. And we've talked before.
Yes.
You like it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so it's good, good,
Yes.
very good.
Very enjoyable. Yes.
What?
And
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, no. I was just gonna say, just the enjoyment part, just to wrap it up. Um, I will say that you will know in school whether or not you love this profession or not. I mean, you should use school, right? If you're not using your program to figure out what it is that you enjoy, you're wasting your time, because you certainly don't want to find out in the job market. It will be very hard, because then you're gonna have to pay rent, all of those things that are a part of adult life, right? You don't want that. But
Yeah, someone once told me that one of the reasons for going to college is so that you can find out what you really like doing, and you can kind of like explore your options, and figure out what it is you're good at, what it is you want to do. But
yes.
I'm not sure if that's really a popular opinion. Most people, I mean, including myself, I went to college for a computer science degree because I wanted a better life. I thought I need to do something with my life, right? So,
Right.
but when I got there, I switched to math because I was better at math. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, but just to expand on that real quick before we go to the other topic, um, I have met so many people in my field, my current job and previous jobs, that didn't even have an engineering degree. So it is possible to perform like an engineer and not have the credentials of an engineer. That will limit your opportunities, I must say, but it is possible to learn with the jobs, right? But then you miss out the opportunity in school to get exposed to so many different fields. Especially here in the US, you have clubs that you can join, that you can test different aspects of your knowledge and get different kinds of experiences. And I'm all for getting a degree, but I know this is controversial, so we're not gonna get too much into that, right?
Yeah, this is a G-rated channel.
G-rated channel,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we don't want to get too heated.
No, nothing
No.
controversial. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. But you were saying something earlier.
No, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
Good. Wasn't important.
No, it wasn't
It's okay.
important.
Wasn't important.
So a lot of like students, that I've had, they would take my calculus class and they would do pretty good. They would get A's and B's. Most people get A's and B's in my classes. When I taught calculus, and they would take engineering classes, and I just feel like they would be so stressed. And a lot of times, they would be so stressed they'd want to change their majors and stuff. So I'm sure you had classes where you would go to class and the professor would go up there and he would just talk about some stuff. And you just didn't know what was going on. And you open the book, and the book has typos. I've seen some really bad engineering books with really bad mathematics. I'm not going to name names. I mean, they're good books, but they just had some really sloppy notation, like using the same variable inside the integral and in the limit of integration. I remember the first time I saw that in a book, and someone's like, "Oh yeah, this is my engineering book." I'm like, "What the heck is this? This is garbage." I was so upset. I was like, "Oh my God." I almost started to sweat. I'm like, "I can't believe this is a book, and this is what is being taught to students who are in my math class." So you have all these pressures and stuff, and a lot of times I think students give up and they change majors. Do you think if someone, and I want your honest opinion here, if someone's in an engineering class, like let's say like a 3,000 level, 4,000 level, like junior level, senior level engineering class, and they're barely getting by with a C, do you still think that person should push forward and continue to pursue an engineering degree? Or do you think they should take a step back and reflect and say, maybe I'm not good enough? Because a lot of students do that. What do you think? I mean, because there's a point where you should make a decision and quit. And I think that,
So I can talk about this two different ways. So I'm actually I'm gonna side with both, right? And I'll explain why I'm gonna side with both. So if the reason why you're struggling is because you don't get the material, and it's evident that you don't get the material as much as you try, you should quit, right?
Okay.
You should quit, because if you're seeking a true engineering job, you're gonna have to be able to teach yourself things, right? And in engineering, as far as the program goes, a lot of times we're teaching ourselves things, right? And which is why it's so hard, right? The professor gives us clues on how to get to it, and he gives us the beginning, but he doesn't give us the finish line, right? So if you're struggling because you don't get it, then you should quit, right? Now, if you're struggling because a certain professor is a certain way and they're just gatekeepers, which they're out there, right? Some professors are known for being gatekeepers.
Yes.
It's horrible. It's horrible. All right. Everyone tries to escape them, but they exist and they're out there in every single school, right? Then you should not get discouraged, right? Because once you find a job, that professor will never exist anymore in your life. Most likely, you're not going to find the job that requires the knowledge of that specific professor. And even if it does, there's people in the field, people in your job, in your fellow coworkers that will be happy to help you, like bring you up to speed on the topic. So you should not get discouraged, right? Just because you had one F or you had a C, or you failed the same class a couple times. I had a an acquaintance, which ended up becoming a mentor throughout my schooling there, and he had failed 3 times one class and then 3 times another class, and that was with the same professor.
Wow.
With the same professor, because this professor taught 2 classes back to back, and he was known as a gatekeeper. He was known as a gatekeeper. Now, this gentleman ended up, explaining, not that he had to explain to anyone why he failed so much, but he said that at some point while in school he was homeless, right? So he was homeless. He was sometimes sleeping in his car, and a lot of times, in situations like that, it's inevitable that you're gonna fail. But also, it got me thinking, like, okay, it took him more than 2 years to get back on his feet. But also, I must say, like, I wish he would have explained that maybe to the professor as well. Like, hey, this is what's going on in my life, and I've already failed your class once. How can I do better next time? And are there any resources out there for me that I should be aware of, instead of failing 3 times and then failing another 3 times? Well, actually, I think he took it twice and then passed the third time, and then took it twice, then passed the third time. 2 separate classes, obviously,
Wow.
with the same professor.
Wow. Where is he now?
He's an engineer. He's doing very well.
Wow.
Yeah,
What
I'm
a
still
story.
connected with him. He's doing very, very well. Yeah.
Wow.
So
What a story.
this is just, yeah, this is just an example, right? So if it wasn't that he was not capable or anything like that, he was totally capable. So if you're trying very hard and you just don't get it, then quit,
And
right?
quit. But I mean,
Yeah.
how hard? Like, I mean, you're talking like really, really hard. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
really, really hard. It means that you're pulling friends to study with you. You're going to tutoring sessions. You're working closely with your teaching assistant, with your professor. You're watching tutorials online, and you just don't get it. You just don't
yeah,
get it. And normally it's not just for one class, okay, guys? It would be for a couple of classes, and this is when you should just give up.
yeah. I
Because
agree. When it's like, okay, obviously, every single class is a struggle, and like, and also another good sign is like everyone else is getting it, and it's happening in all your classes, not just one. Because I've had classes where
yes.
like I felt like when I took physics, I felt stupid for the first time ever. I'm like, wow, so, like, I'm not
Yeah.
smart. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I remember people were getting A's, and I would study every day, and I got a 77 on my first test, and the teacher wrote good. I'm like, how is that good? It's a 77. Like, what the heck
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
this? Physics is tough. It's a tough.
So I will say this actually. My first ever engineering exam, first ever, right? I actually failed that exam.
What'd you get? Do you
Failed that.
remember? Do you remember what you
Well,
got?
I got like a 60 something.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I got like a 60 something. I
Yeah.
was crushed. I thought of giving up.
It's pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happened was I don't give up very quickly. I really don't. But I knew I wasn't putting in the right amount of effort. So I just said enough is enough. I put full throttle into studying, and that F ended up becoming a high B at the end of the semester. I got hundreds until the end of the semester, basically. And that has happened later too in other classes. So my very last semester at university, I failed the first exam of vibrations, and I remember being crushed as well because it's like, oh, why am I failing this? Like, I'm an A student. Like, this really shouldn't be. But it turns out the average was failing as well. But regardless of that, my original point is, if you're trying hard enough, then persevere.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're not trying hard enough and you don't get it, um, yeah,
Yeah.
totally
I,
quit.
I think I kind of think the failure makes you stronger. If you can
I think so
overcome it.
too. I think so too. I think we all have those stories, right?
Hmm.
You know, there may be rare exceptions of very smart people out there, but life teaches them different ways, I guess, too. So it's not like,
Even they
you know what I
fail.
mean?
They fail too.
Even they fail, yeah, in
Yeah,
different aspects of life.
and what happens a lot of times when these 4.0 students who are like untouchable and they seem like they're gods, because I've known them, and they get a bad grade for the first time, they break down. They break
They
down.
break down big
They,
time.
they break down. I knew the girl. I didn't really know her. And she took the math GRE. That's the
Yeah,
subject test for grad school. And I took
yeah.
it too. And I did terrible, I think. It's been a while. Well, yeah, I did pretty bad. And I remember seeing her after the test, and she was crying, just like crying. And I wanted to go say something to her, but I'm like, no, I don't really know her, so because I didn't really talk to her.
Yeah.
But she got into Notre Dame.
Oh, that's an excellent school.
Excellent school. I didn't apply to Notre Dame because I was scared. They, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they required, I think, 4 classes a semester
Oh, I see.
as a grad student, and you had to pass, I think, a foreign language exam after 1 year.
Yeah,
So I was like, yeah, it's a little bit too much.
that's
For me.
tough. Yeah, very tough.
Because I knew my limitations, of 3 classes.
Yeah,
three was the limit.
Well, graduate level classes, let's remind everyone of that, right? Yeah.
Right.
We're not talking undergraduate here. And that's typically while working part-time, right? As a GTA or a TA, right? So it's very tough. And it's never just 20 hours. It's never the promised 20 hours. I know this. Trust me, I know this. I was a TA at some point, and it's never just 20 hours,
What were
as
you a
much as.
TA? What were you a TA for?
So I was a TA for a course called Numerical Methods. So that's a very typical course in many engineering fields. So we touch on different ways to solve complicated math problems by approximating them through different types of techniques. So yeah, I was a TA for that class. I did very well as a student, and the professor asked me if I wanted to join him as a TA, and I said sure. I think it would be a great experience. And yeah, I did. I did it.
Nice.
Can I just share one thing about that though?
Yeah,
I think
sure,
it's gonna
whatever
be
you
funny.
want.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is good.
yeah. It'll be funny. It'll be funny. Well, not really funny. It will be interesting. Um, so a lot of times, right, we think that we don't know enough, right? We think we underestimate how much we know, and it's so interesting because um, during the semester, my professor had a procedure, right, and he had to be out for class, and I was like, all right, here we go. I don't know how I'm gonna do this, because I was thinking, oh, maybe I have to sub him, right? I mean, this is what TAs do, right? We typically are the subs. So I was like, I'm an undergraduate student. Like, what am I gonna do? And he wasn't expecting me to sub him, but I was so ready to sub him that he felt confident that I could sub him. So imagine me, this undergraduate student, just stepping in front of 100 students and just taking over and teaching the lecture and just and he was still there, but he wasn't as active because he was still recovering from his procedure. And later, at the end of the semester, I ended up asking him to be a recommender for an application that I had, and he told me that in 30 years of teaching, he didn't say top 1. I don't know why, but he said top 2 student. But still, I'll take top 2.
He said 2?
Yeah, top 2 in 30 years of teaching.
You got to send him this video if we post it. So like,
yes, I'll send it to him. I'll send it to him.
Send it with a timestamp so he knows
he knows exactly where to go. But no, it was great. So a lot of times we underestimate how much we know, and we think, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. You just put that barrier, and instead of that, is just why not? And just I went for it, succeeded, and the rest is history, right? So it was a really good moment for me, and if had not I taken the chance to step in and be brave, I guess I would have never found out that I'm fit for whatever I set my mind to. And I think a lot of you guys that are out there watching us are exactly like that. You think that you're not fit for it until you just go for it and you do it, and then you shine, and this is it. That's your moment, and then confidence just skyrockets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think a
Yeah.
lot of times too, or at least in my experience, like I took certain classes and I was studying certain topics, like for example, mathematical induction when I first learned that, like the inequality proofs. I remember
Hmm.
learning that in pre-calc, and I remember studying it for hours every night, and I never understood it. I just gave up, and then it wasn't until like a year later that I finally got it. So I think sometimes when people don't understand, I think they just need time.
Yeah.
Sometimes time just makes you stronger. You learn more math, and so it makes it easier to learn new math. Same thing with engineering. You think?
Same
Do you
thing.
feel like
Exactly same thing. So one of the strategies that I used, this is really good point. I think this is going to help a lot of different students out there. So I remember this same class that I failed first exam. I came to the professor and I was like, "Hey, I'm struggling. This is very hard. What do I do?" And his advice was, find someone that is struggling more than you. And I know this is gonna sound iffy, but um, teach them, right? Become their teacher.
wow?
So when you teach someone, you typically learn double because you have to explain things to them and you have to figure out creative ways to explain it to them. And yeah, I mean, you don't have to, find someone that's worse than you, but find someone that's willing to be taught in a way that you get to be at the spotlight, you get to find ways to be creative with your explanations, right? So good study groups, good people to study with, and that are willing to just share knowledge without stepping into each other's toes and taking turns,
Mm-hmm.
right? I remember throughout university, I only had one friend that I could truly do that with, and we ended up sticking together the whole time
Wow.
because he would he had a very practical perspective and I had a very theoretical perspective. And when you put two and two together in engineering, it's just gold, you know?
Yeah.
So just
That's
study together.
really good point. I think
Yeah.
just to echo on, just to emphasize what you said, a lot of times students will look at their teachers and they'll say like, "Oh my God, the teacher's so smart. How do you know so much?" And I'm just gonna be honest. It's not because the teacher is smart. I mean, maybe they are, but it's
Yes.
because they teach it. When you go in there every day and you teach, I'll just use calculus as an example. You teach Calc 1 semester after semester, like you just know it cold. You become a monster. Like it just
Yes.
becomes so. It's like breathing. I used to tell
Yes.
my students like, you need to get so good that it's just like breathing. Like you can just like
Hmm.
integrate. You can just like, and you get that way by teaching. So that's interesting
Yes.
that you got that advice from your professor. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. It
So
was
good.
early on. It was early on in my engineering schooling. So that really made a huge difference. So every time that I would look for friends to study with, if they were teachable, if they were willing to be teachable, that meant I could study with them. But if they weren't teachable, they were set in their own ways, they weren't willing to compromise and collaborate, I would say, hey, I'm busy. I've got other stuff going on. And I would just do it on my own until I found, this friend and we just hit it off and, worked well together for a long, long time. So for those of you out there that, are in the program or starting the program or maybe looking into getting a new major, I think this is golden advice, right?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
So, oh, I'm gonna throw some inside information here.
This is good because I have no questions. Because
Yeah. Take
I'm like, I don't
advantage
know what
of
to
this.
ask him.
Take advantage of this situation here, because I know in the comments, right? I know in the comments everyone's like, "Who's this math sorcerer? Who's this person?"
Oh no.
No, 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 no. It's gonna happen. No, but seriously though, um, I was his student for I don't know how many classes, right? Several classes, and yeah, he's I've been trying to get this guy to shine more on his videos to show his incredible personality outside of the videos into the videos so you get to experience him like I got to experience him, right? Like if you like this guy, on YouTube, in real life, he's just like, you know, outside of this world, right? So as an example, right, and you're gonna be embarrassed about this, but I don't care, right? I
I'm
don't
gonna
care.
switch so they
No,
can't see
no.
my face.
Oh, okay, okay. No, well, we'll do whatever you want. So in school, right, there was this website which I think fell apart after years, but it was called Rate My Professor.
Oh, it still
Rate My
exists.
Professor. Oh, it still exists, but not as intense, I guess, right? People don't use it as much, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
People stopped feeding the you know
Oh,
the
good.
reviews, right?
I hate that website.
Yeah, yeah. See, he hates it, but I don't know why he hates it, because he was probably one of the best reviewed professors in the whole software, like in the whole website. You know, so at school, I remember everyone wanted to take him as a professor. So it's just crazy to me that I got to experience him outside of, first, before this success on the channel. But I really hope that this podcast really like nudges him to show you guys a lot more of who he is and what he does and how incredible he is outside of the videos, because he has a lot to offer, other than great math and great inspirational videos. I think, I truly hope, honest.
I'm not gonna post this.
You're not gonna post this? Why not? Don't do this, man! Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. This is good stuff, man. This is
I
good
know
stuff.
my setup is so bad, this podcast, but I mean, I can hear you, you can hear me, so that's good enough. I think
Yeah.
I gotta
Yeah.
wear a tie next time. Be like Lex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is good. This is really good, and I enjoyed, joining you. So
That's good.
it's fun.
That's fun.
So
That's fun.
I really hope that you get to interview, some incredible people. I hope the audience, takes advantage of these podcasts in the future, and I hope that this just motivates everyone that's out there to just push for greatness and pursue whatever it is that they set their minds to. I think this is what your channel is about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My channel is about. When I first made this channel, I think it was like 2014. I didn't want to tell anybody, and then I was sitting in my office hours, and someone came in and they said, "What are you doing? Are you watching YouTube videos?" And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And they're like, they could hear my voice.
This is so him, guys. This is so him, by the way. All right.
They could hear
going.
my voice. And he was like, "Oh, you have a YouTube channel?" And I'm like, "No." And they went and like they all subscribed, and I had like 50 subs the first day.
Yes.
And then I would just come home from work every day and just like post videos. I mean, I almost have 8,000 videos. It's completely ridiculous.
I know. And again, this is just a testament, like the fact that you got 50 subs in one day, right? Like all your students that found out, they subscribed, right?
Yeah.
Because they just wanted more exposure to what it is that you can offer, right? And last thing I'll say is, it's an honor for me, and I really hope that this takes off. This is a huge success. And yeah, if anyone that's out there would like this to continue, just you already know, hit that like button. He doesn't do that enough, by the way. So hit that like button.
Oh, I never say that. No way.
Get that going, blow this up, share with all your friends, right? Comment like, I want more of the Math Sorcerer podcast,
Yeah.
Go nuts. Go nuts.
Yeah, who should I have on here, right? I was thinking like math professors. That's an easy choice,
Math professors. I know you have a lot of people in your network from different fields as well.
Mm-hmm.
That, just like you brought me, you can bring different people from, that you've known throughout your life that can benefit different sets of your audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who else? I mean, I think the moon is the limit, right? The
Yeah.
moon is the limit. So.
Yeah, I got to refine my setup here. It took us what did it take us, like 10 minutes to get set up? So
yeah, probably, but it's
I just
okay.
I have to make sure whoever I bring in is like a nice person. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I got to set it up and,
Yeah, but the first one is always working out the kinks, right?
Mhm.
Like we talked about, and
Yeah.
I think you're on the right track, sir.
Yeah,
So,
this is fun. This is fun.
this is fun.
This is fun.
But
I also set up my Patreon page today, so if anyone's watching this, Patreon. I think I've got 19 patrons. Is it patrons or patrons? I don't know.
I think it's Patreons, right? Yeah, how people
Yeah.
say it, I guess. But yeah, I think a lot of people underestimate how much work it goes into making high quality content the way that you do. And especially a lot of it is free, right? Some of it you don't advertise, but it's there for anyone that needs it, right? I know you're constantly pushing new math videos, like besides all your inspirational content and all your book reviews, you post actual math, right?
Yeah, sometimes,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I just posted like 50 videos, yeah.
exactly. Well, that's not sometimes. It's like very often. Yeah, see? But so if you like his content and you want to see more of more podcasts, this is one way to emphasize, hey, we want to see this, and hopefully you get some merch going on, sir. You got to get some merch out there so we can all rock that at the gym
shirts,
or
my shirts are not. Yeah, I think I don't think anyone buys. No one buys the shirts. I mean, they're not very.
Yeah,
good.
well, because you haven't really. Well, we'll have. Yeah, I'll have to nudge you on that, but
I need some designs. Maybe people can send me designs, and I'll
send him designs. If you have a design idea,
yeah,
just send it to him.
That's right.
You know, and that way we can get some merch going. We can all just rep it and stay strong as a community. I think that's the most important part, right?
Yeah, it's a big community. It really is. There's a lot of people from all over the world. I mean, it's just like all over the world. And I think that's the coolest part for me, when I get emails from people from like India or like Pakistan or, Ireland. I mean, just all over the world, places I've never even heard of. Like, it's just, there's so many countries. Like, it's insane how many countries there are in the world. It's just shocking because when I go into like my YouTube analytics, it's like US, India, and then I think it's like UK. And then there's always countries, and it's like 1%, 0.8%. It's like, whoa, how do they add up to 100? Like, it's like hundreds of countries. It's ridiculous.
Hundreds of countries, yeah. It's ridiculous.
So really cool.
It's a very diverse community, and I love diversity. So I'm glad that you had me as your first, interviewer, and I hope there's hundreds of more. Truly,
awesome.
Truly. Hope this becomes a weekly thing. I don't know.
I don't know.
It'd be awesome. It'd be really awesome.
This might be the only one. No,
no, it won't be the only one.
I'll try to do one more.
It's gonna blow up. It's gonna blow up. I know it. I'm kidding, but hopefully they enjoy it. Hopefully the audience, you guys enjoyed it, right?
Yeah,
and that's all that matters.
Also, this will be on Spotify for anyone who's listening. So if you're listening on Spotify, that's awesome. So it'll be on Spotify. It'll be on YouTube, and yeah. So maybe I'll post clips. Maybe I'll post the whole thing. I'll post the whole thing on Spotify for sure. So
awesome.
Yeah, so people can listen in. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. It's great.
Thank you. It's my honor, honestly, my honor. Anything you need, you just scream.
Iron out the kinks on the first real podcast, right? Because it's a 2-person podcast.
yes. But it's gonna be great. I know. Take care, everyone. It's been a pleasure. It was a pleasure. All right.
All right. Later.